What's more important, head coaching experience or NFL experience? That's the age-old question when it comes to NFL coaching hires. Because when it comes to NFL coaching hires, other than retreads, guys who have been head coaches before, your only other options are plucking some guy who's only been an offensive coordinator and has never proven himself in the position, or going down to college and plucking a guy from a successful program and hoping it translates to the NFL. While there are a lot of upsides to bringing in a college coach, like name recognition and fan excitement, even the biggest names in college football have failed. Just look at what Nick Saban did as the Miami Dolphins head coach. So sometimes it just feels better to hire a guy who's more popular in league circles than he is with fans because he has a lot of NFL connections, and then he can hire familiar names at the coordinator positions. But as a Browns fan, I've seen this fall flat on its face multiple times. Either way, when you go with the unproven coach, you're always making a decision based on a projection. And what feels safer is up to the guy that hires, whether he feels more comfortable hiring a guy who has done the position before, albeit in a completely different realm, or hiring somebody who's lesser known, has not been a head coach before, but is well recommended from league circles. And while that guy is well recommended, he's also well recommended by the same exact guys who are trying to beat you every Sunday. And that's what makes these kind of decisions so hard. This is part 2 of my 3-part series about the Browns coaching search and who they should hire and what are the options. If you missed the first one, please check it out. Link is going to be in the description. I went over some of the more proven options out there. This week, we're going to go and talk about the guys who need to prove it. The unproven guys, the college guys, the coordinators who've never been a head coach. This video is going to be all about them. Lincoln Riley, head coach of Oklahoma. Now, honestly, don't feel like this one's going to happen even if the Browns want it to, because it doesn't seem like Lincoln Riley wants to leave Oklahoma. And if you're Lincoln Riley, I can understand why you wouldn't want to leave there. In his 2 years there, he's been in the playoffs twice. He's had back-to-back Heisman Trophy winners at the quarterback position, and he's set to run the Big 12 for the next 10 to 15 years. And he'll make a ton of money while doing it. Now, unless he has a deep desire to be in the NFL, I don't really see him moving up to be the Browns coach. But nonetheless, I feel like it's important that we do our due diligence and see what some of the pros and cons are of Lincoln Riley. Now, the first pro with Lincoln Riley is kind of the most obvious pro. It's the reason why he's most rumored to get this job. He is ultra familiar with Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield has spent a ton of time in the Lincoln Riley offense, learning Lincoln Riley, talking to Lincoln Riley, winning games with Lincoln Riley, winning awards, championships. I mean, it's an obvious connection there with Baker and Lincoln Riley. If he's able to replicate any of the success from that offense in the NFL, I mean, it could be spectacular with a guy like Baker Mayfield, a defense like you can build in the pros. You can build a dynasty if it works out. The second pro that you got to consider when you're talking about Lincoln Riley is that he has 2 quarterbacks in back-to-back years win the Heisman Trophy. That is impressive. That speaks a lot for that offense. Baker, the last 2 years of his college career, broke the efficiency record in Lincoln Riley's offense. And then Tua broke it during the season this year. And then Kyler Murray went to break Tua's record this year at Oklahoma. Lincoln Riley's offense is something incredible. How much is that his Big 12 defenses? How much is that is the talent that he's just had at quarterback? And how much is that is Lincoln Riley is all up for debate. But you can't deny he has his hand in that pot, and that's an extremely impressive feat that he has. And if he can replicate any of that success in Cleveland as a head coach in an NFL team, that can lead to a dynasty like nobody's ever seen. But it's a huge risk. The third and fourth thing that I'm going to say really makes me consider Lincoln Riley is that he has done a really good job bringing Oklahoma back where they belong in that elite kind of conversation in college football. They kind of went away for a little bit, but they came back really strong. And a lot of people thought that was just Baker Mayfield, but the last thing he did that I'm going to count for him, he did it with a completely different guy at quarterback, a guy at quarterback who, when he was at Texas A&M, looked awful under a guy who we thought was an offensive genius in Kevin Sumlin because what he did with Johnny Manziel. So Lincoln Riley has something real with his offensive game planning, and it's worth taking a look at if he's interested. Now, while Lincoln Riley's offense has so much of a bright side, if it works out in Cleveland, there are some cons. Because if his offense doesn't translate to the NFL, then what you got? And this is where the downsides of hiring Lincoln Riley happen. The number one con is it doesn't look like he really wants to go pro. I don't think that's anything to do against the Browns. I don't think that's anything against to do with his relationship with Baker. I just don't think he wants to leave Oklahoma. I think if you want Lincoln Riley to come to your NFL team, you're going to have to offer him a ridiculous amount of money. And what comes with that, if you offer Lincoln Riley a ridiculous amount of money, is a potential for there to be a power struggle. Look at what's happening in Oakland with Reggie McKenzie and John Gruden. And John Gruden ain't even winning, and it's happening. When the coach makes so much money and the team puts so much of an investment in the coach, it's going to eventually alienate the general manager and his staff, because Lincoln Riley is eventually, if he keeps winning as a Browns coach, is going to want to have more to do with the personnel side. He's going to want to have more to do with the evaluation. And the team, Jimmy Haslam and the owners, are naturally going to want him to do more because of how much they're paying him versus what they're paying the general manager, which would probably be a tenth of what Lincoln Riley would be making as the Browns head coach. You have to ask yourself, do you want to invite that kind of potential for an offense you're not really 100% sure is going to really make its way smoothly into the NFL game? The third thing I'm worried about if the Browns would hire Lincoln Riley is Lincoln Riley doesn't have any real NFL connections. Who would he fill out his staff with? How will he vet them? How will he know some of the things to look out for, some of the people to look out for in his staff? Again, to no fault of Lincoln Riley, just because of how new he is, just because of how much you pay him, you open the door for there to be a lot of turmoil if this doesn't go 100% right. And that's the scary part about this, because the Browns, again, can't waste the next 2 to 5 years, because that Super Bowl window that they're going to have is going to be within there. They can't mess around. While there might be a lot of potential, a lot of excitement for Lincoln Riley to be the Browns head coach, to reunite with Baker Mayfield, there's a lot that can make this situation untenable, and that's what I'm worried about. Now we'll go to our second guy, another college guy, in Matt Campbell. Now, for whatever reason, Matt Campbell's name has been thrown around as a potential NFL head coaching candidate. And I'm not trying to throw shade on Matt Campbell. All I'm saying is that Matt Campbell ain't really done that much. Now, I have to give him respect where respect's due. He won at Toledo. He went to Iowa State. And that Iowa State program was a complete joke when he came there. They were approaching Kansas levels of bad before Matt Campbell came there. And Matt Campbell has come there, and not only are they bowl eligible, but they're a respectable 8-4. Now, while I commend that, and while I think Matt Campbell has a great future as a Cyclone, I don't think that means he's ready to be an NFL coach. But respect is where it is. He took a program that was a complete joke and has made them respectable. And he deserves props for that. This first con, and I realize this is not a factual take. This is kind of I've watched him and made an opinion take. Matt Campbell doesn't seem like he has the personality or physical presence to be a head coach and a leader in the NFL right now. I watch him and I just don't see people wanting to follow him. I don't see somebody with the personality of Baker Mayfield respecting and listening him. When it comes to personality and physical presence, I think that's a huge part of what goes into being a good head coach relative to your situation, because I think one of the main reasons, other than Hugh Jackson just being one of the worst coaches of NFL history, matter of fact, the worst coach in NFL history, one of the many reasons I feel like Greg Williams has had so much success in Cleveland so far is because he has a different presence. His voice, it just connects more with the people in the locker room. You know, when Greg Williams says something, the team takes it serious. The team respects Greg Williams. They clearly didn't respect Coach Hugh. With Matt Campbell, I look at his physical presence and just watching him on the sidelines, and I don't see it. I don't see the leader of men. I don't see that leader walking up and down there. He's just not the kind of guy I can talk myself into believing in. Now, I may be wrong. Matt Campbell might come to the NFL, be a great head coach, but that's just kind of how I feel about him. Second con is this dude hasn't had a high-profile job in college yet, let alone the Cleveland Browns job. It takes a strong personality. You can't just be anybody and coach here. It's a tough city to coach in because the Browns fans, they care. They want success. They want answers. They're going to voice their opinions. That's why a guy like Baker Mayfield has worked in Cleveland. That's why a guy like Greg Williams has worked in Cleveland, because he's compatible with the kind of personality that most of the fan base has. Now watch a video of Matt Campbell and tell me if this guy seems like he's going to stand up in that Cleveland market. I don't see it. Now we're going to move on to some of the guys who are current coordinators in NFL teams. The first person, this kind of a pair that we're going to mention, is Dave Toub and Eric Bieniemy. Dave Toub is a longtime special teams coordinator, has been one of the best in the NFL, and Eric Bieniemy has been the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs, but only for about a year. But that year was this year, and that year has been spectacular. And that pair would be Dave Toub as the head coach and Eric Bieniemy as his offensive coordinator. Now, one of the biggest benefits to doing this would be, one, Dave Toub has like 10 years of NFL coordinating experience. He's been a special teams coordinator in the NFL for over 10 years, and he's been one of the best in that time period. Second benefit, and why you would want to bring him over as a pair, is you still can get that game-changing NFL-tested offense that the Chiefs have been running in Cleveland with Eric Bieniemy if you bring him over. Now, how much of the offensive explosion by the Chiefs this year is Eric Bieniemy and how much of it is Andy Reid? Well, that's all up for grabs. But you would be able to bring him in and, in theory, bring in that offense that has worked with Patrick Mahomes and you would think would work with Baker Mayfield, who has a very similar skill set to Patrick Mahomes. Now, here are some of the cons. This is going to be a hard sell to the Browns locker room and to the Browns fans when you look at some of the other proven options that are out there. I mean, you got Greg Williams, who is winning games in Cleveland right now, who is making Browns fans want him to stay right now, that you would be passing up on. You got Mike McCarthy, who has won a Super Bowl, you would be passing up on, to go with a relatively unknown, albeit well-tenured special teams coordinator, and his offensive coordinator, who was under offensive coach and has only been an offensive coordinator for 1 year. That's a tough sell to Browns fans, that you're going to not get the guy who's winning right now to hire Dave Toub. And the last con, and the biggest con, is, say Eric Bieniemy has this great offense and he comes to Cleveland and he lights it up in Dave Toub's first year as head coach. Well, guess what? Best case scenario, Eric Bieniemy is going to be out of here in a year. You're going to have a whole new offensive coordinator. Since you got to hire a new offensive coordinator because your guy was so good, you're set back the 2 years that you didn't want to be set back by making this decision. This is the issue with hiring the special teams coordinator. Offensive coordinators, whether they have done something or not, are going to fly off the shelves. They're going to get hired by other teams. So right now, if you want to have consistency on offense, if you want to build around your franchise quarterback and keep him in the same offense, that offense has to be a part of the head coach's system. Since your head coach is Dave Toub in this scenario, not Eric Bieniemy, who isn't really qualified to be the head coach, you would probably lose Bieniemy and be left with the special teams coordinator trying to build a team around Baker Mayfield. Again, tough sell. At least if it was Greg Williams and he lost Freddie Kitchens, you would know, hey, Greg's won some games here. We don't know nothing about no Dave Toub. And the fourth guy I'm going to bring up as a legitimate candidate, I feel, for the Browns head coaching job. And honestly, if you would have told me in August that this would be the case, I would say to you, well, who the hell is Freddie Kitchens? And yeah, that's who I think is the fourth candidate, Freddie Kitchens. I think there's a chance that Freddie Kitchens could become the Browns head coach. Now, while I don't think it's like probable, I think it's definitely possible. And here's why. He's had success on offense with Baker Mayfield right now. He's winning games and putting up incredible numbers with Baker Mayfield right now. If you're the Browns, what you're going to want is continuity. You don't want Baker Mayfield to have a bunch of different offensive coordinators in his first 5-6 years. You want him to have the same voice on offense. Now, while hiring Greg Williams would keep Freddie Kitchens for another year, you would assume if Freddie Kitchens had another year like he's having right now, he would be a head coach somewhere else the next year. So if you're the Browns, you would have to do something drastic, like hire Freddie Kitchens as your head coach, because that way you can lock it down. That voice ain't changing. And you know what? Before I get pooped on for this, there's some more benefits to this. I mean, the locker room is already sold on these two guys, Freddie Kitchens and Greg Williams. It would not be a tough sell to them. It might be a little surprising, but I think the locker room kind of believes in both guys equally. The third obvious pro to this is you would be able to carry over the offense and start to expand it and customize it to Baker Mayfield rather than have Baker Mayfield learn another new base offense, which I feel like can really make the difference in his second year. Now, here are some of the cons that come with hiring Freddie Kitchens as your head coach. This would be the most meteoric rise to being a head coach that has ever happened in NFL history, I would imagine. He would have gone from running back coach to head football coach in like less than 6 months. I think there's a reason that's not a common thing that happens. And let's address the reality with Freddie Kitchens. As a coordinator, he is barely proven. I mean, he's had 5 good games as a coordinator. I don't think that's enough to make him a head coach, but it's all about how much you believe in Freddie Kitchens, the man, and his offense. And if that's something that you want to carry over so bad and keep with Baker Mayfield, that you're willing to do something drastic like this. But in all reality, who knows what's going to happen this year in this offseason? Who knows what John Dorsey's going to do? Because John Dorsey has proven one thing when it comes to his decision making. He does what he wants, and what he wants isn't necessarily the most predictable thing. While John Dorsey is a traditional NFL guy, he is a risk taker. He's drafted risky people. He's made risky decisions. He's all about the gamble and having it pay off. Now, is John Dorsey the type of guy who's going to gamble on a head coaching decision? Is John Dorsey the type of guy who's going to make a safe head coaching decision? Well, if we base it off of what he's done in the past, I don't think that's the case. And I think it's almost impossible to predict. I think it's very possible that he hires somebody that I haven't even thought about covering in these videos because he's John Dorsey. It's what he does. Personally, I'm just excited to see how this process goes out because for the first time in a long time, I trust who's at the head of it. Now, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you for watching part 2. Again, if you haven't checked it out, be sure to go back, watch part 1, which goes over some of the bigger names, Mike McCarthy, John Harbaugh, Bruce Arians, Greg Williams. So if you're interested in what I have to say about any of those coaches, check out part 1. Video will be in the description. And thank you guys for watching. Please keep hitting that subscribe button. Please keep hitting that subscribe button. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think of some of these unproven candidates that I have brought up today and who would you want to be the Browns head coach next year. Again, guys, thank you for watching. Hit that subscribe button. Leave a like if you liked the video and have a great day.